What's happening in Saudi now is what I think is a China market. It's what happened in China. If you go back, what is it now, Ryan? A decade or so, where they wanted to bring big name football to Asia.
Right.
Okay. Now the Chinese project has failed for many reasons. We can do a whole episode on that another time.
That's true. Yeah.
And Saudis picked up the baton.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Inside Football Season 3, Episode 3. 3. I'm your new host, Yeni, all the way from South Africa, and as usual, I'm joined by the Technical Director of TFA, Mr. Ali Al-Jishi. How are you?
Always good, man. How are you?
All good, all good. Do you like my t-shirt today?
You're branding today, huh?
You see that?
Yeah.
I'm representing.
Yeah.
And on Zoom, we are joined by Mr. Ryan Badu. How are you?
I'm good. So how are you doing, man?
All good, all good. I believe you're joining us from the UK?
Close.
No, you believe wrong. I'm joining you from Crete in the southernmost island of Europe, just south of Greece.
All right. You see that we're international. I like that. As I said, Inside Football, Season 3, Episode 3, the business of football. So now today on the line, as I said, we have Mr. Ryan Badu. We'll be talking about the business of football in the Gulf region. Yes, sir?
Indeed, Ryan is our club agent and also a partner in a big agency called Spirit.
There we go. Mr. Ryan, you got a big title there. How'd you get that title?
Many years of hard work, I've been an agent for over a decade. I started off working, as you can hear from my accent, from South London. So working from non-league, I made the journey up very, very organically. Started working with bigger teams in England, Championship, Premier League, and ventured out abroad. So recently I've started to do a lot of work in the Gulf area, which is going to be a big theme of what we're speaking about today. But it's been a long journey, lots of learnings along the way, and hopefully I can provide a little bit of my insights for you guys today.
Yeah, that would be good. So actually, that is the first question for today. So could you just give us a brief scope of your journey? So from starting from the beginning, football until right now.
Yeah, so my first players that I worked with was actually my younger brothers. It was just I was doing the runs to take my brother to academy. Also, anyone in London knows that it's a big task. So I was taking my brother to Southend 2 nights a week, traveling 2 hours back and forth between South London. Along the way, I was helping him at a club called JEFC, which is quite a famous club in South London, producing players. We had a lot of talent in South London. We've got a lot of talent around. I think the majority of the England team are from South London. So a lot of talented boys. Started working with my brother, helping him out. Then decided I wanted to be an agent pretty early. Stopped playing at a semi-pro level. Then helped his friends, and it just escalated to where I was actually, helping a lot of clubs to extract a lot of the talented players from South London. From there, I went into working with an agency. Started working with one of the biggest agents in the UK. Started to work on mandates in terms of helping clubs sell their players, getting the inventory of what they wanted to get out of the club, and matching that with clubs taking them in. So started to build up connections abroad. Then started to take on young clients, good players, youth English national team, and then I sort of found my niche in terms of taking players out of England because at the Premier League and Championship level it's really, really tough and competitive, especially for young players to get minutes. So we started to take players out to the MLS, into Europe, and I found that we was producing such good players in London and in England. And we could take a Championship player out, we could go to a top division and do really, really, really well. Started working in Sweden, taking young players into really, really good Scandinavian markets as well. And primarily I started because I was helping, young people and giving them access to places where they wouldn't have had access to otherwise. And then over the last few years, been working with on a lot of deals and a lot of, big names to take managers out of the country and, working with teams in Greece, working with teams pretty much all over the world, Indonesia, worked with some big agencies and taken senior management over there. And, I would say it's specialist recruitment. So you find, your clients jobs, and it's nothing more complicated or simpler than that.
All right.
So, yeah.
That's very good. And so, speaking about being an agent and on that journey, how did you come across now TFA? How did you become an agent for TFA and for Spirit Sports Group?
Good question. So one of my clients that I inherited from an agency was Danny Goffrey,
Oh,
who's the head coach at TFA. And you know what it's like with players that you're working with, you build up a good friendship. And I worked with Danny coming towards the end of his career, actually, even on his last move, where he played his last move in England as well. And we just always kept in touch. You know, he was going into a journey where he said he wanted to, move into this area for personal reasons, and start coaching. And he started working with TFA. So from the beginning of the actual construction of the football team, had conversations with Ali. And because my background has been in youth development, in helping talented young players make that transition from being a good young player into a so had conversations with Ali. Probably was an interview from Ali's side. From my side, I was just really intrigued because they had a really, really good youth development set up within the club. Started to recommend 1, 2, 3 players. Made a meeting in Dubai last year in May. We had a really, really good rapport, clear vision, similar goals, similar ethics in terms of work ethic, and it was just a natural collaboration from there. I was really excited about what was happening. New team, new exciting league, lots of things happening in and around the area outside football, but also, and more importantly, inside the football. And we had a really, really, I'll say, a journey in terms of actually creating the team, creating partnerships, creating the links, and we're trailblazing. So there's no path to follow. There's no team that's trying to do what we are doing or has done what we have done because we're in a new league. So we've got to create our own lane, which I like. So we're really, it's a really, really clean situation in terms of the club, but ultimately, the world of football is crying out for more opportunities for young players because from England to America, wherever we go, there seems to be a glass ceiling initially in that top 1 or 2%, and some players just need a little bit more time. So that's what really attracted me to this project, where the most important things that players need is playing time on the pitch and also continued development, whether it's physically or, not everyone's ready by 18. So that's what this team offers, which I think is really, really good for the football league.
If I can jump in with the Spirit Group, because obviously what's happening now in Saudi Arabia and all the noise and all the media stuff, me and Ryan discussed this 12 months ago. So this is not us jumping on the bandwagon.
Right.
So Spirit Group is an agency that specializes in bringing the big names to this part of the world.
Right.
And whether you want to call it luck or perception, we spotted this 12 months ago.
Right.
So me and Ryan talked about it, and now Ryan is the partner running Spirit Group.
You see that?
And I think that's where it came from, and Ryan can tell you a bit more about that. But we discussed this 12 months ago that something is going to happen in this region, and of course,
yeah.
now it's going crazy. Ryan?
It is going crazy. That's a good. Now, since we are on that topic now, you've seen this coming, and now y'all have taken action. So since you have a broad perspective of the football scene now in the Gulf region now, can you share with us what is happening right now in the Middle East in terms of football?
I'll let Ryan go in a minute, but look, football is transitional, and it follows cycles and circuits. So from my point of view, when me and Ryan spoke about this, obviously we're very aware of the UAE and Dubai and what Dubai attracts.
Right.
Equally, Qatar's next door doing something similar.
Of course.
What's happening in Saudi now is what I think is a China market. It's what happened in China. If you go back, what is it now, Ryan, a decade or so, where they wanted to bring big name football to Asia.
Right.
Okay, now the Chinese project has failed for many reasons. We can do a whole episode on that another time.
That's true, yeah.
And Saudi's picked up the baton.
Yeah.
Now, of course, Saudi, it's both cultural, political, and football changes. And it's all happening at the same time. Ryan can pick it up more from the agency point of view, but from us, it's bringing that big name football here, especially after the World Cup in Qatar.
Yeah.
Ryan, what is your thought?
Yeah, absolutely spot on, Ali. But another thing, first of all, what I would say is, and I've been involved in recruitment, and sometimes you'd have an option where the team can actually pay financially, but the player doesn't have the willingness, or more importantly, the player's family. So I remember I had a really good deal financially for a player to go out to Turkey, and it wasn't Istanbul, which is a lot culturally different than Europe, even though it is geographically in Europe. And everything was fine. Personal terms were more than what the player wanted. And the player's family didn't want to go and live in that particular area. So much so the club that he was at were actually willing to pay him a good sum of money to go, and the wife just said no. So with China, culturally it's a lot different than we are living in Europe. But what's happening in the Middle East is that there's a natural emigration and a natural migration of talent, period. You know, people going out to Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia to get better jobs. So what's happening with the football is similar to what's happening in life. People actually looking to go out to this part of the world where they're investing so much in life in general. What we're seeing now, I think the deal, you know, we can look at Benzema and say, wow, that was always going to happen with the fund and Ronaldo and Messi. But the one that catches my eye is Ruben Neves, a 26-year-old who can arguably strengthen any of the top 4, top 6 teams in England. I don't think any Arsenal or Man United or Liverpool fan would have been upset to see him come to their team. And he's gone out to Saudi Arabia. So that's the one that's sending ripple effect in football.
Right.
What's happening in this region is I've always, and you know, a lot of agents have been interested in Saudi Arabia and the Emirates because it's traditionally paid well. But if, you know, we can even go back to Mauro Zarate, who came quite early in his career and then went out to West Ham. And you had the boy Bernard, career, played in Russia, Brazilian international, played one year in the Emirates, then he went out to Greece and almost won the league with Panathinaikos. So it's not coming into as part of the ecosystem of football. And that's only going to be continued. Maybe Ruben Neves has a great European Championships with Portugal, and he does go to one of the big teams. I don't think he's come here to retire. And they're not going to go out and take less money. Probably they'll get a profit from it because they bought him at a good price. So now we're seeing that the teams in Saudi are actually competing for top players without a shadow of a doubt. You know, just because you're not playing for Chelsea, Edouard Mendy about 18 months ago was one of the best keepers on the planet. Likewise, Koulibaly as well. So I think that's something now, like we said, by Satnam Valley, and it wasn't a coincidence. We saw what's happening even in the formation of the second and the third divisions in the UAE. And the lower divisions in Saudi Arabia, they're really, really looking to do something which is unprecedented. We can look back 40, 50 years ago to what happened in the NASL with the American League, where Beckenbauer and Cruyff and famously George Best and Pele went there. And that was something where you built a big house on sand because the foundations of that was the star name. As soon as those names retired, the fans left. They didn't have the infrastructure for football. So version 2.0 was the MLS, where they've generically built up the actual fan bases so that the teams are self-sustaining, and now they're bringing in stars like Messi. But over here, we're seeing that we've already got a fan base. You know, people talk about Saudi Arabia, but if we look at Saudi Arabia in the World Cup, they're the only team which beat Argentina. So the Saudi players are probably the best definitely in the Middle East, some of the best in Asia. You've already got full stadiums, 50,000 big teams that fill out the stadium, and now you're adding onto that foundation top players. So this league is not going to flop like China. It's actually going to be something which, this is a changing trend. It's not a flash in the pan of 1 year. I think that they sustain what they're doing for a few years, and then you're going to have a product, because as football fans, we want to see the best players play. If the best players are playing for Al Nassr and Al Ittihad and Al Ettifaq, we're going to watch that game. And it's going to be something which is going to be consumed a lot in Asia, where there's lots of fans, but I think globally.
I want to pick up on that. I mean, because for me, I mean, look, coming from the UK and being an Arab ethnically, I find it, and the Neves one is a great point, I find it very hypocritical how they jump on this Saudi thing. You know, they're battering Saudi, greenwashing, and especially the pundits in England, because, you know, they get the noise, they get the views, whatever they want. Messi went to the MLS for a lot more money than Ronaldo. Why is there no noise about that?
Yeah.
Why is that okay? What's he gone to the MLS for? Football? Of course not football. Of course he's gone for commercial reasons. Why is that not greenwashing? Why is Saudi Arabia greenwashing and USA is not greenwashing? Hypocrisy. Simple hypocrisy. And Neves, like you say, bucks it all. A 26-year-old, 28-year-old, whatever he is, at the height of his age, he's chosen to go play in Saudi.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I saw an interview with Oscar, and he was talking about when he went to China and everybody battered him. he followed the money. He says, I'm 26 years old and I've gone to become a millionaire in China. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm following the money.
Of course.
What's the problem with that? So for me, just that point, the hypocrisy pointed at Saudi Arabia and pointed at Qatar.
Yeah.
Qatar bought the World Cup. Qatar bought the World Cup. What? Russia got it on merit.
And since now we're on that point, how do you think now this change now with Saudi coming on the map is going to change the football landscape? What do you foresee?
Well, look, it's just. I mean, look, in the Premiership, we're spoiled. Okay, in the Premiership, they're spoiled because it's the top of the mountain. Why
Yeah,
is the
it's
Premiership the top of the mountain? Because all the money is there.
That's true.
That's it. It was in Italy in the 90s, as Ryan will tell you, in Serie A.
Yeah.
Now, it shifted to England because of the TV money that Sky bought. Okay, so the difference is here is the Saudi fund has bought the money.
Yeah.
Sky bought the money to England. So it shifted the per diem. All of a sudden, the Premiership became the best league in the world
Yeah, true.
because football is money. And anybody that tells you otherwise shouldn't be in a program called Inside Football. People follow the money.
That's true.
The coaches, we're in negotiation with Spirit, with a big name coach. Hopefully, he's going to go to Saudi Arabia. We won't announce it now. If it comes through in the next episode, we will announce it. Okay. The coaches are going to Saudi Arabia. The players are going to Saudi Arabia because of the money, of course.
Yeah.
If Saudi Arabia had no money, nobody would be going there. MLS didn't attract any players because of retirement football, because there was no money in it.
Yeah.
What's made Messi go there, Ryan? You can explain to these guys. Why has Messi gone to the MLS?
Yeah, he's got a great deal. And I think that we've got to think Benzema's an Arab, okay? And
Yeah.
for him, it's a big coup for them to get him into Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
With Messi, he's a Latino, and he's gone to Miami, which is full of Latinos and the sort of Latinos. So at the moment, if you're anyone in the Latin world, the most progressive places are Miami or Mexico City. So I think commercially, that's fantastic for him as well. And there might be some sort of personal preferences in where he's going to live, but of course, it's a business deal. Messi's a brand.
No, but I'm also referring. Sorry,
It's
Ryan.
100%.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but I'm also referring to the corporate deal.
Yeah.
Apple TV is part of the Messi deal.
True.
Okay?
Saw that. Yeah.
Adidas is part of that Messi deal. Okay, so everybody says he's gone there for 400 million, Ronaldo. My friend's gone for a couple of billion over there.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
Yeah, of
He's-
course.
He's getting a cut of every game shown on the MLS from Apple TV.
Exactly.
It's a commercial deal.
Yeah, they won't mention the numbers, but it's a very big deal. I mean, Saudi on its own was a very, very good offer. And then if you would turn that down and then go to MLS, clearly there's a bigger financial move there. And I was doing a video with the kids, and one of the kids actually said in the TFA Academy, Messi, why are you confusing us? I think you're playing financial football chess.
No, spot on.
Yeah,
Yeah, don't forget Russia before the war.
yeah,
All these rising players that went to Russia, what did they go to Russia for? What did they go to Russia for, Ryan? Not the football. Big checks.
Exactly.
big.
Russia was buying players for 10, 15, 20 million. I remember Kevin Durant went out. He was a good striker at the time. Dynamo for 10 million transfer fee, just the transfer fee alone as well. I don't really like the term sports washing, because that's what sports is. Sports is and has been since the first Olympics. I can use some bad example of even the Olympics that was had in wartime with Adolf Hitler. Sports is about propaganda.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Spot on.
And
Sorry, go on.
England in the late 80s were banned from Europe, and the English game was kick and rush. It was actually looked down upon. Fast forward 20 years, you've got Man United doing trebles and winning Champions League because of the power of the Premier League as well.
yeah,
So I think that there is a double standard for sure. If someone goes to sign for Manchester City, it's a great move for his career. And Manchester City, as we all know, in England, now they've done great in recent years, but they're not one of the traditional big clubs. Then they're not. But they've got the financial backing. That's the reason that they're as successful as they are, because they've been able to get the right people in place and to make good decisions and finally win the Champions League.
But to answer your question, so to go back to, sorry, Ryan, finish, please.
Qatar owns Manchester City. The Saudi Arabians own Newcastle United. PSG is owned by Qatar, so we can see clearly where the financial power in football is. But when Man City win, it's not sports washing. When Newcastle are doing well and they get to Europe, it's very, very well done to the manager, and rightfully so. But we have to go and have the same standard when someone wants to go and sign for Al Ittihad.
No, for sure. And the same thing with when Ibrahimovic took over Chelsea. What was that? What was that? He came in with a bucket load of money, and because he was not an Arab, there was no mentioning of this being sport washing, Putin washing, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But to go back to your question, look, Saudi Arabia has had a change of sheikh in the past few years.
Right.
They're changing the image of the country. They're opening it up.
Yeah.
Okay. So this investment, wherever you want to call it, if it is just for tourism, it's working, isn't it?
It is. 100%.
Who in the world has not heard of Saudi Arabia now?
Yeah. Everyone has heard of Saudi. Yeah.
Okay. And they genuinely have an intent to make a competitive league because, in my opinion, they're after the World Cup in 2030. Okay. If not 2030 is the one after.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do that, you got to have big name players playing in your country. You got to have a competitive league, which means they do well in the Champions League. So from a financial point of view, it makes sense. The numbers are crazy, but how else would you convince these boys to go play in Saudi or live in Saudi? So actually, the Saudi Investment Trust is smart.
It is.
It's better than spending on advertising and tourism.
That's true.
That's my opinion, anyways.
They have a very big plan now. Ryan, so how do you think this now impacts the club development and player careers with this now because now we're speaking about money. How do you think it affects that?
Well, I think for a lot of the Saudi clubs, when you're actually spending money on anything, you would like to run a profitable business, as well as the marketing side and the positive implication it does of having top level football in your country. So when we start to realize, or when they start to realize in Saudi Arabia that you can take a player and you can buy him for 10 million, and you can probably sell him for 100 million, that's what's going to happen eventually. They're going to start getting in better sporting directors, better scouts, better scouting systems, better coaches for youth development, and having that element as well. So what we're going to see is we're going to start seeing that a lot of younger players are going to go and make the move or make the transition to Saudi Arabia or the Gulf area earlier, and they're going to use it as a platform to develop, whether it be in one of the lower divisions for some of the players that need to get another chance, or whether it's going to be in the higher divisions from effectively close buying players from good development leagues, maybe second division in France, etc. And they bring the players in under 23 years old. They give them the platform to play, and then they move them on either to a bigger team in this area or back into Europe as well. So that's going to be the massive shift which happens, because at the moment, since time immemorial, any sort of player coming towards the end of their career would look at America.
Yeah.
Would look at even the second division in America, would look at going into various regions of Asia to play their last bit, try something different and retire. But we're not going to see that anymore. We're going to start seeing younger, more valuable players go over to Saudi Arabia, and the clubs develop in a way that they can actually start to sell players. So if you look at Red Bull Leipzig, for instance, and Salzburg and Liefering, what they're doing, I wouldn't be surprised to see a project like that in this area.
Interesting one as well. Did you hear the UEFA guy? I forgot his name. Came out last week or the week before saying that the Saudis are doing it wrong. What they should do is invest in their academies, invest all this money in these academies. I don't know where you sit on that, but I can tell you, if you go to the Premiership, okay, the hardest thing in football is to sign the future stars.
Yeah.
Which is what we're doing with EPC, trying to discover those gems and make a future star.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you the top young talent does not go to a club that's the first team is not doing well and has names. It does not go. So if you look at Man City, for example, Man City before the investment from Abu Dhabi, who signed for Man City? Unknowns.
Yeah.
Unknowns. They will always go to Man United.
True.
Okay, or Chelsea or Arsenal at the time.
Yeah.
Okay, the moment Pep arrived and they started to have the name and started to have success. Now you look in the youth teams in Man City, and it's who's who.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so actually, contrary to that guy in UEFA talking nonsense, okay, what the Saudis are doing is right. You make the flagship team, then you can develop the academy.
Of course.
So if all this money went to Al Nassr, Al Hilal, and academies, who are they going to sign?
Who are they going to sign? Exactly.
Yeah. And why would they want? Why would a top talent from France want to go to Hilal?
Exactly.
Or where Ronaldo is. They'll go where Ronaldo is now.
Yeah, they'll go where Ronaldo is.
So there is a strategy there. The Saudis have done a great job with Newcastle.
Yeah.
All the noise about Newcastle, how they're going to spend money. And actually the contrary, they've done it brilliantly.
Yeah.
They didn't buy big names. They didn't sign big name coaches.
Right.
They've just got into the Champions League. Okay. And they have a plan, and I can guarantee you they have a plan in Saudi.
Yeah, they do. It's a very big plan. It's genius, if you ask me. Now, since we're on this point of academies now, the football scene is changing drastically. If you do not keep up, you will be lost. Now, for new club owners, now that we have provided this information, what advice would you have for them? Let's start with Ryan. For new club owners as they're starting out, what are the key aspects?
Working with me for years, he said, don't do it. But
For new club owners, first of all, what you've got to do is you've got to get the right people in place in terms of identifying the right people, whether it be the right staff, definitely the right players. I think finding players is a massive thing in football in terms of talent identification. If we look at the price of a football player now, there's been a natural inflation, but it's a little bit more expensive. We can see Declan Rice, he's a decent player for 9 figures. So we're talking about 105 million
right,
for a good defensive midfielder within the league. So the price of a football player is, in terms of natural inflation, it's gone through the roof. So if you can find those players earlier and you can develop them in the right way, then you'd always be able to have to add to your team as well. So for the owners, having the right systems in place, we're seeing that recruitment. You can do it with money, you can do it with a nice story, but retention is something that they might struggle with in terms of actually keeping these players happy. Not with regards to financially, but in terms of Ruben Neves wants to develop as a player. If he's going in and the training's not well organised and well structured, and in all honesty, in the Middle East, it's not the level of Europe in terms of the day-to-day, the preparation for the matches. If that's not correct, then what's going to happen is you're going to have star players who they don't. These players are they're there for financial reasons, but they also want to be competitive and to play football as well. So I think that the whole infrastructure isn't ready for some of the players that are coming at the moment, and it needs to get ready. You need better. There's a lot of talented coaches, but what the owners in this region need to do is they need to actually bring these people in and actually give them the right power to do their jobs. I've found in my experience over the past year, there's a lot of people in clubs who are maybe just there and they're not allowed to do their job. So if you're going to bring a technical director, sporting director, someone, a fitness trainer, let them do their jobs. Not having people around the boss of the team to pick the team because of politics or these type of things as well. So getting the right people in and letting them do their job is going to be the most important things that these owners will need to do.
Yeah, that's some good information. And now a question for you, Coach. What are some common mistakes that they should avoid? Mistakes maybe that you've
the
made.
owners. I mean, look, Ryan hit it. So without repeating what Ryan said, first of all, you got to have a vision and a plan.
Right.
You got to have a vision and a plan. The owner. Me and Ryan have been involved in this in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
Okay, so conceptually, like Ryan said, new team, new league, exciting stuff. Let's go for it. If there is no really 2-year plan, 3-year plan, I don't believe in long-term plans in football. You cannot. So I remember me and Ryan had the first meeting and he said, what's the plan? I said, 1-year plan.
Right.
Yeah, you cannot have a 3, 4, 5-year plan. Nearly impossible.
Okay.
Have a 1-year plan, revise it 6 months in, revise it 6 months in. The plan, the people, Ryan works as the club agent, Danny works as the first team coach, Fawad as the assistant team coach, the physio, the one-on-one trainer, everybody matters. Having that team matters. And like Ryan said, the trick in this game always is finding the talent.
Yeah.
Finding the talent. The better you are at finding the talent, the more successful you're going to be.
Yeah.
And have money.
Yeah.
Have money. This is an expensive exercise.
True.
A lot of people go into football because they fancy it. Okay, I'd like to be in football because they like football.
Yeah.
Football is a very expensive business and 10 times more expensive if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
People will happily waste your money. There's teams around us in the league. We know them. They've got good investors, good budgets, but what's the purpose? Just to spend the money? So that's what I'd say in summary.
Yeah, and starting a business like this or a football club, it's like you said, it can be very expensive. Now, we've recently partnered with Rush Football Academy. How can other teams or new football clubs leverage from partnerships?
Well, look, football is all about the network. I'll let Ryan talk about this. Um, People have to partner with you for the same vision, and it's very difficult. That's where it goes wrong. Whether you bring sponsors in, investors in, anybody in that doesn't have the same vision as you will distract you or make you fail or whatever.
Yeah.
They're leveraging it by, I use my network, they use their network, Ryan uses his network. That network is, it's an overused word in football. Go at any level of football,
Yeah.
all the way to the top. With Spirit, we hear it quite often.
Yeah.
It's the network, it's the network, it's the network. So when me and Ryan talk about players, we can say him. We can reach him.
Yeah.
We can reach him in the whole world of football.
Of course, yeah.
Because you have a network.
Because you have a network.
Okay, and then it comes down to your name and credibility. So when you bring people in with you, what do they bring to the table? What's the value for me? If there's no football value, keep your millions.
Yeah.
That's what I say. I don't know what Ryan thinks.
Ryan?
Yeah, I agree with that. A great example would be the Red Bull project, which is officially RB because they can't use the term Red Bull as well. And if we go to yesterday's or the signing of Dominic Slobozai, I think that he's a poster boy for that project. Started off at their second. Well, they've got 3 teams within their network effectively. They've got the second division team in Australia, Liefering, don't know if I pronounced it correctly. The guy went there, excelled, done well, went to Salzburg, won titles, became a champion, became a full international, moved to Leipzig for a couple of years, and then they sold him for 70 million. And then they're going to get the next one in Leipzig. I think maybe 1 out of 8 of those players do that, but once one of the players go through, it really, really makes the whole project profitable as well. So having the right systems in place, a lot of teams now all over the world in England, I know, are searching for the right partner clubs. What we're seeing is almost like football's becoming like an oligopoly of companies who own certain teams. And we see it in Greece where certain teams are aligned with Olympiakos, other teams are with Panathinaikos. And there's a system in place where if you're in certain teams in Greece, you're going to go to Olympiakos eventually. And then the destination might be Nottingham Forest. Likewise with the group, Watford, Udinese, Granada. You see a transfer went over the weekend where Domingos went from Watford to Udinese. It's the same ownership. And it's just, he's probably going to be better in Italy rather than the second division in England now as well. This is how football is going. Chelsea have it a lot with a lot of their partners that they work with. I think City Group just acquired
City Group.
Another team. I think Strasbourg has been acquired, and Vieira's been put in as the manager as well. So we're seeing like a group of big companies owning a lot of the teams in football, and they're using it like very synergistically for what they want to do, because football's so global and you need to have the right people in the right places. With regards to our partnership with Rush, like Ali said, it was just very, very like-minded, common goals. Everyone benefited from the partnership and it made sense to move forward. We're actually speaking with a club at the moment in France who've got a very, very similar business plan. We can add value to them, they can add value to us. And that's a natural position where you can get a partnership to happen.
Actually, first of all, congratulations for saying his name. How long did you practice saying that one? The Liverpool boy.
Do you know what? My Hungarian is not too bad. But I've had practice in the past.
That I'm sure. But no, look, and just to finish what Ryan said, all of these things, talent development, talent identification. They pick up a boy from Hungary 5-6 years ago. They've just sold him for 70 million euro.
Imagine that.
And that's what everybody in the world's trying to do.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, let's dive a little bit into the scenario of Saudi, of Qatar, and the UAE. Now, what are the unique opportunities and challenges do these regions present to us?
Look, I mean, you go first. No, you go first. You're the agent. You're the guest.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. So I think, listen, with Saudi, we're seeing that not only building football, but they're building amazing futuristic stuff in terms of the whole infrastructure of the company as well. I think a massive opportunity is going to be when you can successfully merge what's happening in the sporting arena. And we're not just talking about football, we're talking about a lot of the other sports, motorsports. When you can merge that with what's happening in terms of new technologies and Web3, there's a massive opportunity for growth there. They want to do a lot of stuff in terms of metaverse. Certain places in Dubai, you can pay in cryptocurrency. And I think that once you can actually nail to merge those two factors together, there's a massive, massive opportunity for growth in terms of Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia and the Gulf area, is one of the most progressive areas in the world. You fly in from Europe, sometimes you feel like you've flown 20 years into the future, just in terms of the infrastructure of the whole country as well. So there's going to be massive developments of the pitch commercially, in marketing and in Web3 as well, because football's growing so much as well. I think one of the other opportunities is going to be in terms of the actual sales of the games, to actually watch the games worldwide. I think once you've got Ronaldo versus Benzema, you can sell that. People will watch that. People will bet on that in Thailand, in Indonesia. Indonesia being one of the largest football watching populations in the world. So there's a massive opportunity off the pitch as well. On the pitch, I think that in the third world, and I can add Brazil to that, if you start getting good scouting in Africa and in South America, you might start finding some of the top talent has gone to Saudi Arabia at 18 years old and is then sold to Real Madrid because they've got the buying power to do so. So these are the things that we're going to see happening over the next few years.
Yeah.
And then we're going to start seeing some really, really good clubs compete. I would also go as far as to say, I believe that the World Football Championships, or I don't know how we call it now, the International Cup, is going to be held in higher esteem. Because if you've got a really, really strong MLS team, you've got a really, really strong team from the AFC area, and you're playing in this tournament in the winter, which is traditionally played, it's going to be held in higher esteem. As a Liverpool fan, I was really happy when we won that for the first time in a couple of years ago, 2019.
Yeah.
And I think that it's naturally going to grow. We're talking about European Super League, but how far are we away from the World? Because that's the way that football's going. There's a globalization in football. There's a polarization in wealth where the rich are getting super rich, and there's other clubs that were, wealthy traditionally beforehand, which are in the red. So as we're seeing that happening all over the world, it's going to happen in football, and we're going to have a handful of massive clubs competing, and everyone else sort of feeding into the top of that pyramid.
I'll pick up the challenges. The biggest challenge is always the level of football.
Right.
That's what you're going to hear. The level of football. I'll take you back to 1991 when the Premiership started.
Yeah.
And when Zola and Gullit and Bergkamp came to England, I'm sure everybody was talking about the level of football. Because they were leaving Serie A, and like Ryan said, England was out of the European football for years.
Yeah.
Okay, fast forward from 1990 to now, where's the Premiership gone? Good players attract good players.
True.
They make big teams. Big teams make fan bases. Fan bases make successful football clubs.
Yeah.
That's what Saudi is trying to do it. And who are we or anybody in the world to envy them that? Saudi Arabia is the richest oil company in the world, oil country in the world.
Yeah.
Qatar is the richest gas country in the world. They want to use their money to improve their country.
There you go.
Good luck to them.
Yeah.
What's the problem with that?
That's a great point.
Yeah. They've
Ali,
got the finances.
So like you said, I don't see. I'm a big fan of Glenn Hoddle. And I remember when Glenn Hoddle went to Chelsea, it wasn't what Chelsea was now.
Absolutely.
They had they got to the final in '94, but he told me that the training ground was atrocious and his office was like a phone box. And then this guy, his reputation, he played out in Monaco in Europe. He was one of the, he's probably ahead of his time.
Yeah, cream of English players, yeah.
My national team. But he brought in people like Nick and then Vialli, both who ended up managing Chelsea successfully. And then Chelsea evolved in terms of the structure and the way that it was with people like Gullit, who brought all that experience from AC Milan, and Vialli from Chelsea. And then you had Abramovich coming. Now, if you go to Cobham, the Chelsea training ground, it's amazing. But it wasn't like that a few years ago. So we're seeing certain teams that have got the financial backing to actually bring in top Premier League personalities and players, but their training ground's not going to be the best, or their training methodology is going to be terrible. So that goes back to the point that I was saying: if you're going to bring in someone, people are going to be able to need to be able to challenge the people at the top and say, "This isn't good enough. We can't compete with this." Because ultimately, getting the older players, it is more about the money. But when you want to start getting the younger players who still want to, play in World Cups, win World Cups, Champions Leagues, and they're using it as a stepping stone, which it will be, you need to have the infrastructure correct, training ground, training regime, and also the mentality of the local players as well. So, in the Arab world, you've got some really, really talented players, but they don't work like the European players in terms of small things like training times. Coming to training, it's a 9:30 start, not being there at 9:40 or 10 o'clock. So, in terms of the actual culture, there's going to be a lot of rifts and challenges, and you're going to need some big personalities like Glenn Hoddle who'll be able to challenge the bosses and to say this is what we need to be elite and to actually move the project forward. Otherwise, what we're going to see is stories like there was a few whispers of Ronaldo being unhappy because I don't know what the expectation was. He's done well in terms of numbers, but I think maybe they were expecting to score 4 goals a game. Football doesn't work like that. So that's going to be one of the challenges as well, just to piggyback off what.
No, and just to finish on that point, because I think we're running out of time. Infrastructure-wise, I can tell you only from the UAE, and me and you travel all around Europe and see clubs. Nobody touches the facilities they have here. So facilities-wise, and I don't know what Saudi is like now, but here, whatever we've been around in Europe, doesn't touch the facilities and infrastructure here. So they have the infrastructure. They just need to raise the level. And how else do you raise the level of football? You bring the best players in the world. That's it. And then you can develop your own players. And like Ryan said, the smart thing to do for Saudi is to become a selling market, not just a buying market.
That's true.
Which MLS wasn't. Until recently, they were just a buying market. Rooney, Gerrard, Beckham, everybody went there. Nobody said they've gone there for shit level of football.
See that?
But here it is. Yeah, you get my point.
But I get your point. All right. We're almost done now. So we got some questions now from our viewers. And they want advice basically. So let's see. Here's a challenge, Ryan. In 1 minute, tell me how can a player go from amateur to professional football player?
Join APC.
How can a player go?
Yeah, from amateur to pro. Let's go.
Playing at the best team that you can locally and working from there. That's the start. So just being the best player in your town or in your area, finding a team and playing. There's no point of trying to find opportunities and you're not actually currently playing. So unfortunately, if you're one of the best players locally, the chances of you being a professional is very, very slim.
Right.
From there, from the time that you're 18, you want to get as much professional experience as you can as possible. Whether that be a work experience, a loan, or actually moving to another area where you can actually be a professional and play first team football. You want to get out of the academy system before you're 20 years old. Really, you don't want to, be in the reserves and be a guy that's a good trainer and hasn't had too much proper experience. So, for instance, in England, you don't want to be playing with the 23s at 22 because chances of you actually going somewhere and being trusted, you need to have games under your belt. And then, third of all, I'll just say, working as hard as possible when you can and trying to keep the right people around you, whether it's getting the right agent or building up your network as well.
Let me piggyback on that.
Most important things that you need.
We had a meeting this morning with a young British boy, English boy, who's a very talented boy from Rotherham. Okay, and Ryan, you correct me if I'm wrong. So this guy has worked his way up until the under 18s.
Right.
Okay. So the usual advice is find somebody like Ryan to represent you.
Right.
Okay, that's what we tell all the players.
All right.
But most agents don't touch a player who's amateur. Don't touch him.
All right.
Because he's amateur. He's got no pedigree. He's got no thing.
Yeah.
So I told this kid, I said, look, you come here.
Yeah.
Division 3 in UAE is professional league.
It is.
You play 20 games, 25 games, you score 5 to 6, 7 goals.
Right.
What happens? You're a professional.
There you go.
Ryan will be interested. He's played 25 games in the professional league, scored 7 goals. Now he's sellable.
Yeah.
So what Ryan said, get into the right team, in the right division. That the ceiling Ryan was talking about earlier, that's the ceiling.
Yeah.
You're an amateur until somebody makes you a professional.
Of course.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
Get your first 25 games as a pro, and the agents are interested. Am I right, Ryan?
Yeah, 100% as well. Because especially if you're a striker and you're the top scorer of your division, chances are you can actually go up your division. Or if it's a smaller country, you can go to a bigger country. So we love the Terry Murphy story, going to Lithuania, doing what he needed to do, scoring goals, Belgium scoring goals. Now he's one of the leading players, one of the best young players, one of the best young strikers in the world, to be honest, as well. He 4 years ago, was in Lithuania, but he was doing well and scoring. So if you're in a big pool, get out, be a bigger fish.
Right.
100%. You'll get swallowed up by the system, mate. Man United release 20 players every couple of years, 16, 18 years old. And if you don't get back on the ladder and you start climbing up, then you're long forgotten.
Yeah, 100%. Well, you heard it here on Inside Football. Mr. Ryan, thank you so much. This was very, very informative. Coach?
No,
No quick fire questions.
there's no quick fire questions.
Quick fire questions. Unfortunately, we're out of time for quick fire questions. Or maybe we can cheat it in. Coach, give me 2 fire questions. Let's go. Do we still have time?
We have time for questions? 5 minutes.
Let's
5
try.
minutes.
Okay, let me shoot at Ryan. And quick fire questions. What team do you support and why?
For Liverpool because you can't change your football team. I supported them when I was younger because I had people that looked after me from Liverpool, childminders, etc. And I followed them obviously ever since the early 80s.
The easy answer is good taste. Best player you've ever represented and who?
The best player that I've ever represented. For me personally, working on a deal for John Mensah, who was the national team captain of Ghana. That meant a lot to me because that Ghana team in 2010, arguably before this World Cup, was the best African team that had actually performed at a World Cup. And I genuinely thought if it wasn't for our friend Luis Suarez, they could have went on as well. So to work with John later on in his career was massive for me.
Biggest wasted talent and why? Without giving his name.
It was a boy at Crystal Palace, a really good guy, extremely talented. He was playing in the first team at 17 years old. It was unfortunate for him. He's extremely talented. Obviously played championship early doors, made a couple of bad moves and never ended up having the career that he had. Probably got a list of about 10 or 12 of those guys, especially from South London, where we've got an abundance of talent and not so many of the characteristics to really go to the top level in life in general. But he was an extremely talented boy who should still be playing in the Premier League now.
Biggest mistake young players do?
Getting ahead of themselves, thinking that they've played in the Championship or played in the Premier League and you're a Premier League player as well. I think that young players have to understand that you've got to go again. Every contract is you're a professional footballer for a few years, and you need to make sure that you stay there as well. So I find that a lot of players they rise, they play for the national team, and then they start believing their own hype. Also, keeping your feet on the floor and having that mentality to work every single year and to keep getting better and keep putting yourself in uncomfortable environments to develop is probably one of the key things that it takes for young players to move forward.
Last question off TikTok. What advice would you give a younger you?
I would give a younger
agent, a younger Ryan agent. What would you tell him now?
I would tell him, find your niche, stick to it and believe in it, and to work when you're in that beginning phase, to work with the best 14, 15-year-old players that you can find and go on that journey with them as well. I got sucked into working with too many senior players because it was more profitable rather than some of the young players that were presented to me. So one of the players that was actually presented to me when he was 12, 13, 14 is now playing in the Premier League, earning a ridiculous amount of money. And ideally, because I was a little bit short-sighted and started working with more senior players, I missed out on a few guys on entrepreneurs. So that would be my advice to the young players: just find your niche, stick to it.
Brilliant advice. Thank you for your time, Yenny.
Thank you so much. This was very, very informative. Thank you so much. I think, how do you pronounce your name? Is it Badu, like Erica Badu?
No, it's Erica Badu, like Ryan Badu.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ryan Badu, like Erica Badu. I'm kidding. Badu, like Ryan Badu. This has been Inside Football. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe. Send us to your friends. Anyone who wants advice on football or the business of football, send them our way. This is Inside Football. I'm here with Ali El Jishi, Technical Director of TFA. I'm Yeni. Good night.